Hello everyone, welcome back to Panzer Paladin. This guy's always freaking out.
Oh my god, guys, did you see they were out of chicken nuggets at Wendy's and I couldn't get my 4 meal? Oh my god, guys.
Nobody's wearing masks. Nobody's wearing masks.
You're not wearing a mask either.
Oh no!
He's indoors.
Hey Spidey, you know you can't just go out without a mask. Peter just narrows his eyes at Deadpool.
Oh god.
Yeah, here's another thing I wish they would have expanded upon. You have the ability to upgrade your health by sacrificing weapons.
Yeah, I think...
The problem is it's very easy to max out in this game.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing you can upgrade. I would have appreciated something more along the lines of, hey, you can upgrade, health, defense, attack, a bunch of different things, so you have to pick and choose, and there's no way you're going to max yourself out by the end of the game.
It's odd that they made a point to include a decision-making process in what you break your weapons to do before they break on their own, but didn't think to include a decision-making process in the upgrade system for your character.
Well, which weapons you give does somewhat matter, because if you give the better weapons, they usually will fill up the bar faster.
Yeah,
but they're also the better weapons you want to use, versus you can give away a bunch of dinky weapons, but they don't do
Yeah,
much.
but
Yeah, but at the same time, it's Mega Man level difficulty where none of the base stages are all that hard.
Yeah.
Because they have to assume you could potentially go to them after just the tutorial stage when you have like 4 or 5 weapons.
You know what that reminds me of, though, Ted? The decision-making process in upgrading weapons in Final Fantasy 13, where, yeah, there were like a bunch of different items that you could dump into your weapons for experience points, and some of them gave you more experience, some of them gave you more multipliers, whatever. You just wound up, getting an idea of what general type of weapon did what thing, and then dumping everything in there. Like, there wasn't really... You didn't really pay any attention to nuance. You just dumped everything in there. And the only finesse it required was dumping in a bunch of multiplier items before you dumped in the rest of the other stuff. So, it's not exactly an impressive design philosophy, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's mostly just there because even if you do break a bunch of weapons, like during stages, you're still going to have extras, is the thing. So it's mostly just there so that you aren't like overwhelmed with a gigantic weapon screaming every time you pause.
I mean, you will by the time you get to the Not Wily Castle, so...
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's true, but the Wily Castle also you're not allowed to do weapons at all. Like, you're not allowed to go back to the main stage at all in that area. So
yeah, but at the same time, if you're at that point in the game, you don't need it. So
I'll also submit that having this kind of health upgrade system does sort of exacerbate the issue of every one of these levels has to have been designed with the notion that you might be doing this level as your first level, or in other words, at minimum health.
Yeah.
So you're making a game with a probably fairly flat difficulty curve feel easier, rather than upgrading yourself with the difficulty curve. So I'm a little unsure how to feel about that.
yeah, no, the difficulty curve is pretty lax overall. I mean, personally speaking, I don't mind that because I'm bad at video games, and it's nice to have one of these kinds of games that doesn't make me want to rip my hair out for once.
I mean, sort of. It's not like Ninja Gaiden hard or anything like that. It's just one of those. If you want to play the game harder, there is a hard mode.
Yes, the hard mode you unlock after you beat the game, I think, is legitimately challenging. But I would say that this is easier than your typical Ninja Gaiden.
When I
not
say
Ninja Gaiden, like Mega Man.
When I say a flat difficulty curve, I'm not referring to easy versus hard. I'm referring to a game that doesn't get actively harder as you progress.
It does when you get to the Wily Castle, but that's kind of regular Mega Man. That's Mega Man.
That's not a curve. That's getting to the end of the game and suddenly everything is harder.
Thanks, Proto Man.
A difficulty curve occurs.
No, I know what you mean. I'm saying it stays pretty flat for the like again the Mega Man example is it stays pretty flat for the 8 stages,
Yeah.
and then it jumps up when you hit Wily 1, and then most of the time it goes up from there in an actual curve.
And, well, I guess that's fine in Mega Man's case because every level is designed to be challenging, but at the same time, I guess what I'm saying is, because there isn't much in terms of difficulty progression, the game runs the risk of getting dull over time.
I do think that a lot of the it does somewhat prevent a lot of that just due to there always being new stuff to find. This game is great about secrets, I found. There's almost always something to find wherever you look. There's almost always
Like
you go
I'm
over there.
I'm not getting all 1-ups or anything like that. So.
Yeah. There's always walls to break, and ooh, is there a weapon in there? There's alternate pathways. There's a lot of cool things to explore, which I think helps with any potential monotony that could happen.
Variety does help, yes. Variety was certainly something that Prince of Persia 08 lacked, but I guess the issue with a flat difficulty curve is that the more you do the stuff that you need to do in order to progress through the game, the better you naturally get at it, right? So, if the game is not getting more challenging as you progress, it starts to feel easier, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Like,
yes, that makes sense.
even if the game, if the game's challenge level isn't going up, but your skill level is, then it starts to feel easier to you. And the game getting easier as you go along is not exactly, it doesn't automatically make a game bad, but it's a difficult effect to pull off without trouble. In fact, to be honest, the only cases where I can say I've ever enjoyed that kind of effect are survival horror games, where it does kind of feel like a take that against the stuff that was challenging you so much early on in the game.
The hell is this dude's name?
Oh god, it's some sort of... a
lot of the demons are all based on, I mean, the alien demon things are all based on, like, monsters from, from legends and stuff like that.
So what is it?
Yeah,
Some
from that
we're-
area specifically, except for Lilith, who lives in New York now for some reason.
Yeah, but they're we're in Mexico, so we have an Aztec kind of demon thing.
Well, I guess Lilith decided to be just, I don't know, the Jersey Devil's next door neighbor, roommate, something.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
I don't know.
if they were going to do an America level and they needed a devil enemy, the Jersey Devil would have been an obvious one, and probably the only one. It's interesting that they picked Lilith for an America level.
I guess they wanted a succubus type demon and then just went with Lilith because that's a recognizable name, I suppose.
Also, this game didn't feel like Mega Man 6 enough. Make it look exactly like Nightman stage.
Well, to be fair, there's not much they could have chosen for America without going directly into Native American stuff, but I think the level we just...
Holy fuck, this is Nightman.
I think the level we just did had a little too much crossover with those kinds of concepts, so it might have felt a little repetitive to have both the level we just did and something Native American themed. I don't know.
They also want each
even
area.
chose...
Oh,
Sorry,
you
go
go.
on.
No, you go.
I was gonna say the enemies even have the same color palette as Nightman stage.
Yeah. I also think they wanted each area to feel like the country they're in. Like, we're in Scotland and we're in a big old, medieval castle.
That's why I get a lot of That's why I get a lot of Mega Man 6 vibes from
So
this game.
they couldn't think of a legitimate mythological thing to theme for an America stage, so they're just like, they're Americans, they like boobs. Let's go with a succubus. Is that right?
I mean, unless if they wanted us to fight the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as the enemy for the
And who wouldn't want that?
I mean, that would have worked. I mean, we started in Canada, so our was supposed to be boss fight in the intro stage was a Wendigo.
Yes. And if you do the remix mode, you actually do fight the Wendigo as the boss. for that stage instead of the horseman.
See, I like that. I like when different difficulties give you new things to do.
Yeah, I will say that the new difficulty is, I don't want to say uninspired, but it doesn't change as much as you would like. It mostly just adds in more generic sort of feeling obstacles instead of massively changing the level design.
And some general damage value things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would have liked, I don't know, something a little bit more ambitious on that front. But I do think that they did do,
as far as I know,
a pretty good job in a lot of
As far
ways.
as I know, like the only 8-bit game that 8-bit style game that comes to mind that has put a lot of work into added difficulties and that sort of thing is, well, Bloodstained. Curse of the Moon.
Oh yeah, Bloodstained did do a really good job at that stuff, which is I think to be commended, because they really did do a great job with pretty much everything in that game. Actually, like, that game is very, very good, and we should do a playthrough of it on the channel, but we were going to wait for the final DLC mode or whatever.
Wait, I think we're talking about different Bloodstained games here.
Wait,
he's talking about the 8-bit
I was talking about Curse of the Moon.
oh yeah, the extra playthroughs in Curse of the Moon were really cool. I don't know. I only played like half of the first playthrough of Curse of the Moon 2, so I don't really know how. I know that a lot of people think there's too many modes in Curse of the Moon.
My more issue with 2 is that it goes into Castlevania 3 level difficulty too much.
I mean, isn't that why we wanted them to make those games? Because we wanted them to make games that hard?
We wanted them more closer to Castlevania 1/Super 4 levels of difficulty, not Castlevania 3 difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool that Curse of the Moon brought some of the better ideas that Castlevania 3 did experiment with back in a more fairly designed form. So in that sense, it was the best of both worlds, I would say. But why is there a destructible wall there? Oh, it's a secret passage. Okay.
So they pre your
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, see, look, it's a crown. The 1-up's a crown in this area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like, look, there's like a really cool statue in the background that I've never even noticed before. The graphics in this game are great.
So, deal with Uncle Nitpick again for one more second. I think I finally figured out what I don't like.
Okay.
The backgrounds are fine. I don't like how flat character sprites are in terms of color. That's what drives me nuts about them. I was trying to put my finger on it, but I don't like how enemies and characters are flat. Like they have no shadows.
Part of me liked that because it gave the game more of a Game Boy Color look versus the NES look that I feel like every game like this has been going.
Like Shantae.
I'm looking at them now, and they do have elements that are designed to give them some depth. Like the robot has little pixels of...
No, to me, the only thing that they have in terms of depth is a thicker black outline.
No, I'm looking at them now, and a lot of the sprites, the flies that we're seeing, the robot right now, have these little, like, 1-pixel flecks of lighter color designed to sort of give you a sense of three-dimensional color. But it's not
like
as,
the white spots on the flies.
It's not as pronounced as it could be, and I am seeing some sprites that don't seem to have that, like that dragon there, that don't seem to have any of that. So it's a little inconsistent, actually. But the main robot does, and some of the enemies do too. It's interesting.
I don't know why. Like all the games we played throughout this channel for years, I don't know why I'm so bothered by this in particular.
Johnny hates
everything else I've seen so far, the game looks great. Like the game looks fun.
Yeah. We're just gonna see the.
Look how flat that boy is.
Yeah, that one definitely doesn't have any.
What are you talking about? He's thick.
But like in the background, you see those statues? They've got it too. In fact, they've got more of it than the actual character sprites do. They've got like darker areas and lighter areas, that sort of thing.
The only thing I can think of is I think the idea was just it would be easier to distinguish between what's actually you're supposed to interact with and what's the background.
Right.
Yeah, like almost everything that's interactable is a really bright color, and everything that isn't is is the very dark.
Yeah,
blue
but now that
and
I've
contrast.
now that I've
with
seen
the
it,
background
now that
and
I've seen it though, it's kind of weird that some enemies have the three-dimensional coloring in them, and others just don't have any of that, even though they're technically larger sprites in some cases.
So the weird dragon guy is the exception, but for most of them, I feel like it's the smaller enemies
I mean, look, that enemy right there suddenly does have some three-dimensional color going on, but only when he's breathing fire and it's shining on his face. It's kind of weird.
The thing for me that I really like is how smooth the animations are, especially like if you look at the droplets that those guys are and how they when they hit the ground and they are in a bunch of different spots. And that dragon dude, like how his tail curls up when he's going to do an attack. It's so good. I guess the 3-frame banners there aren't the most animated animation. That's a sentence, but I mean that also the somewhat smaller animations is another thing that certain NES games have. I remember Shovel Knight, they specifically took frames of animation out in certain instances in order to make it look more like a legitimate.
Well, because it was too detailed.
Yeah, and okay, so actually there is some Lewis's claim earlier. There is some Famicom games that do have more detail, because I remember to make it feel more like a Famicom game in Japan, they added those extra animations in for the Japanese version of Shovel Knight.
Ah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Lewis wasn't, I don't remember which games it was, but there definitely were some games that did it.
Wait, so when your mech runs out of health, you get to try and save yourself as the pilot. That's pretty clever.
Yes, you do.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah, it is really clever.
I like that. I definitely do like that.
So no self-destruct for the robot?
No.
Well, no, there's not a self-destruct for the robot. If you just run out of health, you run out of health. But if you do find more health, like if this happens in the middle of a stage, and you find more health, you can put that health... You can collect more health, and then you'll be able to get the mech back. But obviously, that's not something that happens.
Oh, I was remember what you were saying last part, where it's possible for you to, correct me if I'm wrong, complete stages or beat the game without using the mech at all.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously makes stuff a lot harder because...
Yeah. But I'm surprised, given that frame, they didn't give you an option to self-destruct the robot. And, for the rest of the stage, or at least for the rest of that life, you are without a mech.
I mean, you can hop out whenever you want. So.
Yeah. I know. I'm just saying, but it's I'm surprised they didn't include.
It would have been a cool high risk, high reward kind of inclusion.
Yeah. Making a damaging attack, but obviously you can't use the robot anymore for that life.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that could be an option. But I mean, it's not like not being in the robot is hard. You can jump out, and there are little warp points where you can summon it again after you leave. You can just walk past and choose not to summon it if you want to do a no mech run for some reason. Oh yeah, and also this is one of those few games where you actually can use the shield as a shield, and it's not just set dressing.
So it kind of works like the 2D Legend of Zelda shield, where the shield, wherever it happens to be positioned, is a block point.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It also just doesn't. He keeps it up while you're slashing. So it really does block projectiles. So you can...
Speaking of Zelda 2, you can convince me the protagonist was an iron uncle that watched a shitload of anime, at a glance. Makes you think.
If you were in a peaceful planet, how'd you lose your eye?
I don't want to talk about it.
He was really sleepy one morning, and he hit his face with a doorknob, and it was very...
Yeah, it's very embarrassing.
It's very embarrassing.
He's also really short, too, which is why he...
So he wears the eye patch, and anyone who asks, he tells them he lost it in a bandit raid or something. But...
Yeah, the cat actually ripped his eye out, and he's just too embarrassed to tell anyone. But when they reveal that, all the fanboys get mad because it ruins his character. I mean, what?
Who said that?
People who hate Captain Marvel for no reason said that.
I see.
I'm not being subtle anymore. I like that movie. You can call me a Brie Larson simp all you want.
You're just a cuck.
I am a Brie Larson cuck. Wait. Nah. Whatever.
We'll see you on the next part.